All right, so I want to kind of look at our tentative schedule here. So in the syllabus, right now it's week 10. We have feminist therapy tonight. Next week, week 11, it's family systems. That's October 31st. Then I have the 7th as week 12, and it says handing out exam 3, but I'm thinking that I probably should not hand out exam 3 until the following week, which is the 14th. And then that'll give you the week of Thanksgiving, and it would be due the 28th. So I think we're going to push that back a week. And if it's due the 28th, does anybody know what the last day of the semester is? I don't myself. It's either the 5th or the 12th. If it's the 5th, it's no problem. The exam would be due the 28th when you come back from Thanksgiving break. And then I'd give back the grades on the 5th and you'd hand in your final paper. So I'll check it out. And if the last day of classes for this class is the 5th, I'll move that exam back a date. If it's not the 5th, if it's the 28th, we'll keep it where it is. But I'm guessing it's the 5th. But I'll find out this week. I was just looking at the schedule when I sat down. The either way, it'll work out, Either way, you'll have Thanksgiving break to do it over. I just want to make sure it lands on Thanksgiving break. So you'll have 2 weeks to do it. So I'll figure that out. And then after that next exam, most of you will have your presentations completed. So the very last assignment is the final paper, and that's it. So you will be done with this class. We're about 2/3 through the class now. That's pretty good. And I think everybody's doing a pretty good job. So I did decide what theories would be on the final exam. So the last exam ended with reality therapy choice theory. So on this exam, we're not going to have behavior or multimodal theory on this exam. We are going to have REBT, rational emotive behavior therapy. We're going to have feminist therapy, which we covered tonight. And we're going to have family systems theory, which we cover next week. So those are going to be the 3 questions on the exam. It's the same exact case study of Sam. So honestly, if you wanted to start answering the questions now, you could. You know what the questions are. You know what the case study is. So I think it's going to be pretty self-explanatory, but we'll go over it anyway. If I move that exam back a week, we're still going to have postmodern approaches on week 12, solution-focused therapy. That's a very short lecture, solution-focused therapy. But it's very useful in schools or short-term settings. So we'll still have that lecture, even if I don't hand out the exam that night and wait a week. But the exam will definitely not be earlier, but I might make it later, depending on where our last day of class falls. Just trying to think. And then probably on week 12, I'll also go over kind of instructions for your final paper. The final paper, it's almost impossible to get that wrong because it's all about you. So I think everybody will do fine on that final paper. I don't think there'll be any reason for like rewrites or anything like that for the final paper. You're going to be handed it on the last day of class. But because it's personal, I can't say you're wrong. It's about you. The reason some of the questions are in that final paper is because CACREP requires us to ask them in one of your very first classes. And then we're going to ask you the same question when you're almost done with the degree in clinical field. So we want to see if you've grown, if you've changed, by asking you basically the same thing in the beginning and the end of your master's degree. I guess the only other thing I wanted to share was that 2 people did answer the question about Ellis's theory coming first and how he felt about Beck and CBT, and both answers were documented but slightly different. But if they need an extra 5 points to get whatever grade they want to get at the end, they earn their 5 points. I'll give you another, I'll probably have some more questions before the end of the semester, but good job finding that out. The answers differed. One leaned more towards Ellis kind of thought his was first, but it might not have been. And the other one, yes, Ellis's was first. He commented on it, but he didn't really hold any, negative sentiments towards Beck or anybody else. So I knew Ellis's theory came first. I just didn't know if he had ever really how he felt about Beck or, what their relationship was. But it seems like they had a fairly decent working relationship. They knew each other. They weren't buds, but there was no animosity. So I can't believe that. I mean, the students that found it did a good job finding the answer, but I mean, I can't believe there's not more on that subject, but maybe they didn't want to make a big deal about it. I don't know. All right. So that is the updates. And so I think the only thing I have to find out is what the official last day of classes is and whether I'm going to keep the final exam on the same day or whether I need to move it back a week. So just to give you more time. Either way, it should be fine. So I'll let you know that next week. And any questions about kind of where we're at with things? Yeah.
It says classes end first, and then exam week is.
Thanks for answering that. So, yeah, so that's probably why I had. So he answered they end on December 1st, which is really pretty early. So let's look at this again so I can give you an answer. All right. So this is the 24th. We've got feminist theory, 31st. We have family systems theory. That's next week. The 7th, we have postmodern approaches. the 14th, we're going to hand out the exam. Yeah, see, Thanksgiving. So really your last day of class would be November 28th if they end on December 1st. And that's the week you get back from Thanksgiving. So if all right, feminist is 24th, family 31st. If I did give you the exam when it's scheduled on the 7th, and you handed it in on the 14th, instead of having 2 weeks to do the exam, you'd have 2 weeks to write the paper. Because, yeah, Thanksgiving is in between week 14 and week 15. Well, the thing is, if I move the exam forward a week, so you have 2 weeks to do the exam and the paper would be due at the same time. Does anybody have a preference? You want to do the exam first in a week and then have 2 weeks to write the paper over Thanksgiving, or do you want them both due at the same time? What's everybody else's thought? So, yeah, they would both be due on the last day of class, which would be the 28th. Finals week. How about online? Any preferences? Karen, any preferences? Unmute.
So where it says Thanksgiving break, that's
That's
11/14. That's no classes. I don't know. What's the in-class consensus?
We have one for having them all do at the same time on the last day of class, which would give you Thanksgiving to do both the paper and the exam. I just worry about that being too much for people because, you know, you'd have 2 assignments instead of 1.
Yes, it's a test in time management as well.
That's what it would be. All right, well, the paper is significantly easier than the exam. All right, well, you know, I think that I know you might want more time, but I think it might be more helpful to you if you separated them, got the exam done, handed it in a week, and then finished up with the paper. The reason I'm saying that is because if you're taking more than theories, if you're taking 3 other classes, everything's going to be due that last day of class. So it won't just be my exam and my paper being due that last day of class. You might have 3 other papers also due. So I think it's probably better to separate them for that reason. So, yeah, so we'll keep the days the same. It's just Thanksgiving break on the syllabus is a week later. And, you'll have more time to do the paper, but you'll get that exam out of the way. I don't think anything in your other classes will be due when you're doing that exam. I think that'll be the only thing you'll need to work on, so that might be helpful. Okay, so yeah. So I'll just alter the syllabus when Thanksgiving break is. I think that's the only thing that's wrong. We'll keep everything else the same. And instead of having 2 weeks to do the exam, you'll have 2 weeks to do the paper, and probably papers for every other class you're in. That tends to be the thing for this graduate program, is final papers, not so much final exams. Exams are more like spread throughout the semester, but 9 times out of 10, it's a final paper. And they're usually all due at the same time. So I think that's probably the best choice for your time management. I don't care either way. I got to grade them all. But yeah, I think that's probably better for you. All right. That's it. Let's